Hi guys, this is Greg with Fulfill.com, and we are continuing our conversation with logistics industry leaders. Today I have Chris Jarvis, who is the COO of Ecom Logistics. Chris, how you doing today, man? Good to talk to you again.
Hey, Greg, good to see you on this Friday. Hope you're well.
Awesome. Well, we can get right into it. We'd love to hear a little bit
Yeah.
about the background of Ecom Logistics, and we're hoping you could tell us the story behind Ecom Logistics and what led you to where you guys are today.
Yeah, a great question. Ecom was born firsthand experience in the delivery world, the delivery space, recognized the challenges for merchants and fast-growing e-commerce companies. We were delivering packages, but in order to be fast and to be accurate, we really needed to expand into fulfillment. Ecom today is what we call order to door. Our mission is a purpose-built 3PL for the e-commerce first era. But we started small. We started family owned, scrappy, deep into tactical execution, putting stuff into small trucks, having a 15,000 square foot warehouse. And today we've got, hundreds of trucks and a much larger warehouse, around 150,000 square feet in total throughout the country of Canada.
And that's so interesting with ecom logistics having a truck fleet. And I think that could really be a differentiating factor for you guys. And the competitive landscape right now, there's a lot of 3PLs. So can you speak to how you having this truck fleet like differentiates you from maybe some of the other 3PLs out there?
Well, I mean, having the truck affords us the ability to really create promises with our merchants, right? Promises that can transcend to end consumers. So being in control of not only fulfillment, pick, pack, and ship, but actually executing the last mile delivery allows us to quickly orientate to, same day delivery, next day delivery, and do that on a promise, something that we can create an SLA around and stand beside. Our merchants definitely recognize our ability to create speed makes us different. And that expansion from a delivery company to a fulfillment company to an order to door experience company, I think that's what makes us special. It's that willingness to say yes. It's that curiosity to say, well, what is the real value proposition that we're trying to create? And it took us a little bit. We were just doing delivery. Now we're doing both. And that's a pretty complex piece of business to hang together, but definitely it's not one size fits all. And we recognize that if you put the right pieces together, we can create unique value. And that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, and it is sort of, we live in the age of Amazon Prime and getting things next day, and more customers and more brands want to add that to that checkout because it gives them a lot of power in the buying process to get people what they want as soon as possible. And that standard is sort of becoming more popular in e-commerce. So it's awesome to see companies like Ecom Logistics that have it all in-house, which you don't see too often.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I've never heard anybody tell me, you know what, you should slow down your service. It's just too
Right,
fast.
right.
My kids and even myself, I mean, I've never wanted a slow delivery. You know what, take your time, get it right. No, it's like, you know what, once I hit buy, I want to experience my purchase. I want to know that it's coming. So we're pretty proud of that ability.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. And, sort of shifting gears into you work with a lot of brands, a lot of e-commerce brands. What is the most common pain point you see businesses struggling with before they partner with a 3PL like yours?
There's quite a few different pain points. I mean, brands come to us, typically they're overwhelmed. They've been burned by inconsistent service. Often there's a slow tech or a not connected tech or a lack of transparency that they like to talk about. Or sometimes they say their partners just don't get it. So what do they need? A 3PL that's capable of scaling, that has the necessary transparency to create true partnerships that are collaborative around a shared customer. And that shared customer is the consumer. I mean, we have a saying internally, our passions and decision making is driven by the end consumer. Yeah, of course, the merchant is our customer, but our passion and our decision making comes from, is the customer right? The end customer. If that's the right thing, then that's the way we orientate our actions and make decisions. I think that's what a partnership looks like for us.
Yeah, a true partner in a 3PL is you're often an extension of the brand, and if something goes poorly, it reflects on the brand. And so to see that you align or align the same consumers is a strong point. I think that can really speak to brands. And sort of
Yeah.
talking about two to three like critical overlooked factors, like what should brands prioritize when they evaluate a potential 3PL?
I think it's a real serious decision selecting a 3PL, and it certainly doesn't come down to any one thing. And the three things I would think about would be operational transparency. Do you say what you're going to do, and do you do it in a way that's proactive and discloses what you do? I meet a lot of potential merchants that they can't decipher their billing. They don't understand their rates. They don't know if their 3PL is hitting their SLA. I think all of those things need to be operationally transparent. It needs to be a way of work that builds trust, and that trust comes from being transparent even when it doesn't serve us well. We have a belief here that being overly transparent, even if we're not meeting the grade potentially, helps us collaborate and find ways to exceed that expectation eventually. But it's through that sharing, because often when we're not executing to our best abilities, there's a shared element of why that's happening. So we like to explore that. We like to be overt. I think it's important to think about that. Cultural alignment. We're in the people business. Does that 3PL, does your 3PL care about your customers as much as you care about your customers? If you don't, you're really misaligning on each other. So I think culture is super important. We talk about our principles, and we talk about finding ways to say yes, which, fuels our passion and our curiosity. And then the third one I would say is speed. And not speed every single day in an SLA sense, but when things go sideways, how fast can or does this 3PL take notice of you, right? Is it four phone calls, waiting on hold? Is it instant? Are they coming to you proactively and uncovering things? Are they sharing insights, or is it always, I've got to call them again today. I've got to follow up on this. I've got to make, I think that speed of support, speed of service is critical in that relationship. So operational transparency, cultural alignment, and speed of support. Those are the things I would talk to.
And you mentioned a little bit earlier just being a true partner, and it seems like those three things will align on finding the perfect partner for the brands to match with a company like Ecom Logistics, where they do have a true partner.
Yeah, we hope so.
And then, in your experience, what are like three big red flags that brands should encounter or could encounter when selecting a 3PL? As they're going through the process for RFP, many brands are, putting up one against the
Yeah.
other and comparing and contrasting. What are the red flags that stick out immediately when you hear brands have went through another RFP process and heard something that was like, oh boy, that's a big red flag?
I think it's maybe a little cliche and everyone has this answer. But the biggest red flag has to be choosing a partner purely based on price.
Mhm.
You know, if it's too good to be true, it's often too good to be true. If it's too high and unreasonable, then they're probably thinking about your problem the wrong way. If you're just looking through the lens of, I need a cost per order out the door to hit a certain number, I think you're doing yourself injustice, right? And there's a red flag on that. It almost always, when you're just price conscious, leads to, inflexibility, poor communication, and ultimately unhappy customers. So we've got to steer away from that. We talk about finding the right price. Beyond that, I would say you got to be aware of 3PLs that overpromise without asking the difficult questions, right? It's okay to put down commitments and agreements that are rock solid, ironclad, but you've got to ask the tough questions. You've got to understand the nature of the business, the seasonality, the order flow from day to day, the level of customization in the kitting or order packing process. You've got to uncover those hard questions together, not to add friction to you in the 3PL, but if you can't really talk about the business on the same terms and you're just looking for a price, inevitably someone's not going to be happy. Either you, the merchant, aren't getting what you deserve and your customer's unhappy as a result, or you, the 3PL, are losing money, and that's not a sustainable relationship. So either way, I think getting to the place where it's not solely about price. It's about being fair and honest and finding the right price. And it's about asking the tough questions before you get into the tough situations that are going to really create a longer lasting relationship.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things you brought up earlier in this was just the level of transparency and making sure that the 3PL is being fully transparent in that process as well. And that's how brands can sort of vet out the transparency and making sure that when they approach a 3PL, they're being as transparent as possible. And some difficult conversations may come through during that process, but that's important to uncover those things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And, I'm going to switch gears to sort of technology. I know you just moved into a brand new warehouse, which is always fun to see a
Yeah.
sparkly, shiny new warehouse. So tell us about some of the cool technology and things that you're integrating into the warehouse.
Well, we're doing a couple things. To your point, yes, we're very excited about our new warehouse. It's a shiny new box, and we're happy to be live in that. But we're also implementing a brand new WMS system, and we continue to build our proprietary tech layers in ways to help our merchants meet them where they're at. We believe that merchant shouldn't onboard with us and have to learn our WMS, have to learn our time and attendance, have to learn our billing, have to go through our tech stack and know it as well. We don't believe in customer training programs, right? We want to build our tech stack so that our merchants get what they need when they need it and leverage that information to the best of their ability to drive their business forward and ultimately hold us accountable as well. It's a place where we both can mutually look at the facts together. So when we think about our tech stack, highly integrated, real-time visibility into inventory and order flows, and then, reporting suites that are customizable, that meet the merchant's demands on what service they are doing with us. So be it just delivery, be it fulfillment, or be it both, or any part of the kitting process, any of the special orders, work orders, statuses, and inventory holds that we're putting on product to create kits and things like that. We want to serve this up in ways that they understand it and formulate it, the tech stack that they don't have to dive into our dirty details, that we surface the information, they have visibility.
Awesome. And, talking about custom packaging, customization, how flexible do you feel like your 3PL operation needs to be for customers with, specific needs that maybe are not standard?
I think flexibility is key, right? But I think flexibility needs to be bumped up against capabilities, right? So you have to be honest with yourself. We all like to say we can do anything in any level of complexity. I think everybody's website in the 3PL space, we do it all and we love complex and we love tailored. I think you need to look at the raw ingredients behind a 3PL and really figure out, are you orientated to that type of complexity and that type of flexibility? The biggest thing that we index on is creating SOPs, daily approaches to our business that inherently bring flexibility. So even when the flexibility is not necessary, there's always the but what if? What if this happened on a Monday? What if that happened on a Wednesday? What if it was Black Friday next week? How fast could we get there? How fast can we onboard drivers? How fast can we onboard associates in the warehouse? Where would we onboard associates? What role could they play? What role should they not play? There are some pretty technical aspects of running a warehouse, and we like to keep the most experienced and trusted associates on those tasks. And then what other tasks can we supplement in order to get some of that flexibility that's required? So it's an easy slogan. It's a complex thought process around ultimately flexibility is about scaling, right? How do you scale and retract a business? How reasonable are you with that expansion and contraction? Is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? We talk a lot about shortening those cycles. How can we shorten the cycles around flexibility? So there's often a discussion here, and in 24 hours, could we double the size of the team? How could we make that happen? Do we have the right partnerships in place? Do we have the right agencies to call? Do we know fleet operators? If and when needed, do we have those things already as part of our procedures? And I think sitting and understanding that capability for me as COO is absolutely mission critical, because no 2 days are the same in this business. Without flexibility, you just don't get to profitability. And profitability at the end of the day is what keeps us doing what we love to do and keeps us healthy for our customers ultimately.
Awesome. Because brands are always hoping for that viral moment. They're knowing Q4 is right around the corner, and the adaptability, I think, is so important for the 3PL. And it sounds like at Ecom, you guys are just always planning for these things to scale at any moment and just be prepared for that way ahead of time.
Yeah, ultimately, it's about building where you're going to be, right? So, as a good Canadian, we'd say, you're playing to where the puck is going to be, not where it's at.
Yes.
And in a warehouse operation, it needs flexibility. It's just not where you're at. It's where you could have to be, right?
One thing that brands bring up is the partnership. And we've talked about
Mhm.
that a lot on this call, but what makes it more collaborative instead of transactional? How can brands work with someone like Ecom Logistics in a collaborative way and so it doesn't just become transactional between the two partners?
I think a lot of that rests on the 3PL, to be honest. Our best collaborative customer experiences are ones where that we lean in first, right? We take it upon ourselves to find the insights, to understand the friction, and to proactively bring that to the table. When we do that, customers generally lean in as well. When we're transparent and we show our weaknesses at times or our strengths, and we align it to their goals and we ask inquisitive questions, I find customers more likely to come closer and say, wow, you're really interested in our success. And that's where collaboration for me starts. It starts when we both have shared objectives. And so for us, I'll say it again, our objective is the end consumer. The merchant's objective is the end consumer. That's our common ground. And so I think it's bestowed on us to act as stewards of their supply chain means I have to bring you the good, I have to bring you the bad. I have to work every day to rid the bad from the system. And often that means there's something for me to do and there's something for the merchant to do as well. And it's about, are you up for that? Is it important? Where does it set in our priorities? It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort to maintain that style of relationship. But for us at Ecom, we know that's how we build lasting relationships and how ultimately we grow with our merchants. Most of our merchants were lucky. They don't turn over. They've been here for years. And as we grow into the new warehouse, as you said earlier, we're lucky. Those customers just want to expand as much as their business with us as possible. And we're seeing that in real time as we move into 3 times larger space. Yeah, all of a sudden it's filling up. And that's a really strong position to be in. And I think it's got a lot to do with how you treat customers and how you collaborate with them.
That's amazing insight. And I would love to have you walk us through like one of the success stories that you've had at Ecom Logistics. How did you help them sort of overcome major fulfillment challenges or achieve a significant growth in the business?
We're always very proud of, and there's any number of different success stories, but one that resonates for me without naming names is a direct to consumer beauty brand came to us. They were outgrowing their small 3PL. It was a manual fulfillment setup. Their brand just took off. It had a lot of surge going on. And we have a graph that we show where, it was running out of capacity. It wasn't able to keep up to order demand. And they needed faster kitting, right? They needed better SLA tracking and they needed holiday readiness just wasn't something it holiday came and just it buried them, right? Or if they're sending out a new kit, they just couldn't get the production to line up with when the demand was hitting. And so it's like they're not ready and we can't kit it quick enough. And so do you build that kit before demand, etc. And just overall they couldn't make heads or tails of the SLAs that were being achieved or not. They were quote unquote flying blind, so to speak. So implementing new SOPs, understanding build to stock, build to demand, looking forward, which by the way, these are what asking the tough questions. It was really hard. The brand themselves was moving and growing. They didn't know next week's plan or next month's plan or exactly where holiday is going to be. In those situations, in this situation, but what if? Well, what if you grow 50%? What if you grow 100%? What if you grow 150%? Do we have the flexibility to contend with your growth openly and honestly? Can we make the cycles of flexibility shorter, 24, 48 hours? How many people could we bring to the table if needed? And how much advance notice could we possibly get from you? So let's start working on the supply chain together. How many POs do you have outstanding? When is that inventory going to hit? What marketing events are you going to drive? What did we see in the last event? Is this event bigger? Why? If we and listen, for small brands they don't have a lot of sophistication a lot of times, and we understand that, but if we can collaborate and talk about these things together, what we've done in this example for this beauty brand was, we really aided with insightful information operationally that they weren't aware of, how long things take, right? So if you're what are the lowest levels of productivity and time-based scenarios that we can give you? They knew the lead time. And right. And we can commit. If you give us 3 days, this can happen. And then us again and again repeating, yes, we hit the 3 days. Yes, this did happen. Okay, great. They're building confidence. We're building confidence. And when we both get blindsided, as we do, because forecasts are crystal balls and anything can happen in the world of logistics, at least we could sit across the table and say, we didn't expect that together, versus pointing fingers and not understanding and wondering what went wrong. We're aiding each other in producing a better outcome. And this example, a direct to consumer beauty brand, they hit record highs the first quarter, the first Q4 they were with us. And it was through that onboarding and SOP dimensioning and asking the tough questions, building them a dashboard that was strong enough and helped us forward plan. Like, it's really easy to give you a dashboard and tell you what happened, but how do we take that and flop it forward? How do we begin to say, hey, what else in the future are you thinking? What do we know? Here's what the plan's saying. But giving us a piece of paper or dashboard to talk to started to underpin an operational capabilities that we're going to need. If the curve goes like this, then I guess we're going to need these many people and we're going to need this many packers and we're going to probably be sitting on this much inventory. And if those things aren't happening, we're going to run into a problem if that's the sales plan. And maybe we need to dilute that sales plan, or maybe, hey, we got a lot of inventory. We need to push harder on sales. And so it was a really fascinating learning. And it was nice to see and hear from them just how much their maturity grew as a company out of our engagement with them. And I think that's something that resonates with me is we made them better at what they do. Of course, we don't do what they do. They're very good at it, but we as a 3PL actually help them grow as a brand, which was a big, big mark of success for us.
Yeah, I was gonna say it goes back to the key point that I think we keep coming back to of collaboration. And it seems like on
Exactly.
this specific client, the collaborative nature, like you were pretty much ingrained with their business the whole way and got to watch this amazing growth happen. So that's a very cool story. And to sort of wrap up here, what are your ideal customers? What specific types of businesses or challenges do you excel at handling at Ecom Logistics?
I mean, I think first and foremost, as a privately owned, bootstrapped, profitable company, we love thinking long term, right? We love entering into relationships that are deeply seated in success and long-term thinking, and not everybody is, but for us, that keeps our turnover low. It allows us to commit and develop the right solutions. But if I was to give you generic ICP, it's high growth retail and e-commerce brands that deeply care about their customer experience. And what does that mean? And how does that mean? Like, we're about your consumer. So we're going to find ways to say yes, and we're going to make decisions on your behalf that are based on the end consumer experiencing your brand the way that you think they should experience it. And together we'll learn how to make decisions around that, but we'll go all in on the customer experience. So where's your order? When is it getting there? Can we promise that it's in our truck? It's coming to your doorstep. You have one phone to call at all times, and it's our job to steward your orders as if they were our customers. If we do that, these brands are typically our ICP customers are fast scaling, they're launching new products, they're expanding channels. We love to open up capabilities of distribution and delivery that they didn't see coming. And we've got a brand right now that came to us about 6 months ago. They make a great sauce and you put it on crackers and it's just delicious. And I got an email from them the other day telling us, wow, I'm so happy I made the change. We're launching 3 more SKUs. So now we'll have 4 SKUs. And it's because you guys allowed us to grow this brand so quickly that we have capacity now, because we're not dealing with a 3PL that really couldn't stand up to our expectations. We focused a lot more on building new SKUs, and they're launching some new product for the fourth quarter, which is really cool.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much for the time, Chris. I'm hungry now that we've been talking about some food at the end here. So after this, I'll have to link up and get their name. But thank you so much for joining us again. And we're excited to see what Ecom Logistics is going to be doing over the next year or two.
Greg, real pleasure. Thanks for having me.